Update. I left. I made a post a while back about how I was unsure if the relationship I was in was safe or not and if I was being manipulated, and I am proud to say that I finally built the courage to leave. If this isn't allowed, the mods can go ahead and delete, but I just wanted to share how proud of myself I am due to it being very difficult for me to leave in the first place. Previous post. Sounds like leaving was a good choice. Bad sign when people want to separate you from friends and family. Yay. So happy for you, hun X. Well done. I remember your last post. Proud of you. Thank you. Congratulations, thumbs up. Wow, congrats, I know how hard it is. So proud of you, white heart. My wife thinks I don't love her because I want her to pay for half of our shared expenses. My wife, 31 female, and I, 32 male. Dated for 5 years and have been married for about 3. About me. I come from a family of 4 siblings and my parents are upper middle class. My dad worked and my mom took care of the household. I lived at home during college, they paid for about half of my tuition, and I was able to get scholarships and student loans, $25,000, to cover the rest. About her. She is an only child and her parents are upper middle class. Both her parents work but they don't live lavishly. They paid for all her living expenses and tuition while in college, and she was able to use her parents' credit card for a bit out of college. They give her large financial gifts each year for her to invest or do whatever she wants, and she has never done anything irresponsible with it. It does stay in her account and I never see or ask about it. Neither of us ever struggled financially in the time that we have known each other. We are both pretty frugal and always had more than enough money left over at the end of the day. We make similar incomes, but I have typically made 10–20% more. We have separate accounts and it works for us as we aren't fighting about how much each of us spends. Over the course of our relationship, I believe we've generally been fair with each other and never kept too much track of who owes who what. She would pay for groceries, I would pay utilities. I would pay rent for a few months, then she would pay for a few months. I've never felt like either of us has paid way too much or way too little, and it's a good balance. For a while she would jokingly call me a cheapskate whenever I thought something was not worth the money and found more value in something else less expensive. I would laugh it off because it might have been a valid dig at me, as I live a pretty simple life and don't really want many materialistic goods. This started to evolve and she would use the term whenever I asked her to pay for or buy something. The most recent example is that she accidentally broke something fairly expensive in our house and I asked her to replace it. She procrastinated for months, and each time I reminded her to take care of it, she would call me a cheapskate. Finally I ended up paying for the replacement, and when I ask her to pay me back, she refuses and calls me a cheapskate each time I ask. Now it is starting to bother me, but it's not about the money as we both have enough. I don't care if she ever gives me money for it, but what bugs me is her not taking responsibility for her actions and having the audacity to call me a cheapskate after I paid for the replacement of something she broke. It's not even logical. I just want an equal partnership with her. I had a discussion with her about how I didn't like her using the word the way she was using it now and asked her to stop. I told her it made me feel bad and unappreciated, and explained all of the expenses that I am taking care of for both of us, and never asking her to pay anything, including home insurance, car insurance, health insurance, HSA contributions, water, electricity, heating, internet, property taxes, and home repairs. She didn't seem to take the conversation seriously because she continued to use the word days later. I decided to make a spreadsheet of our financial situation to drive the point home. When I was done, we sat down together and went through the numbers. I showed her that I only had a few $100s left each month after all the bills were paid, whereas she was left with a couple thousand. I told her that I would like us split the shared expenses equally, roughly $12,000 plus any future home repairs yearly. She became saddened and teary-eyed with the idea and said I must not love her. She brought up that she paid a larger percentage of our house, and if I want her to pay half, I should balance that out. One statement she made was that her dad pays for everything and her mom never had to pay for anything even though she works. And that my dad pays for everything for my mom as well. She thinks that asking for this is basically treating her like a roommate and not a significant other. She was concerned that if she ever has kids or stops working, then I will just treat her poorly and ask her to pay me back for everything. She also said that I make more money than her, so I should be paying more, and that paying 100% means I love her 100%. I tried to address all her concerns and reassure her that I am crazy about her and I love her so much, but she was still feeling down about the situation. I feel like she somehow made this about her and not about me feeling unappreciated for taking care of many of the household expenses and wanting an equal partner. Is a 50-50 split really asking too much? She did pay more for the house, but if we ever split up, I would ask for the same ratio. Again, I feel like I don't really care about the money, but maybe she would understand if she shared the responsibility with me. I don't mind paying more, but I just want to feel appreciated. How can I move forward from here and get her to understand that? Her logic is very manipulative. If you paying for everything means you love her 100%, then does her insistence that she pays nothing mean she loves you 0%? Why is your love viewed as transactional and can only be felt by paying for everything? How does she show her love for you? By letting you pay for everything? Not ideal. I feel like you've wedged yourself into a corner by marrying someone before working out all of the details on how you both contribute to household finances, and at this point counseling may be in order. You need to get on the same page about dealing with conflict and general household expenses. This isn't small, it's one of the foundations of your entire lives together. How much more is she paying on the house? Whose name is it in? You really glossed over that. So you ask her for equal financial contribution in your relationship, and her first step is to say that you don't love her? That doesn't seem too great. Wow. Entitled much. Are you really thinking about having kids with her? It's obvious that she needs another 10 to 15 years to grow up. This sounds to me like you married WAAAAAY too early. The fact that you never had this conversation before you married is a recipe for disaster. I think finances and financial expectations is definitely one of the most important things to talk about before marriage, not after. I also strongly disagree with her position. It sounds super transactional and exploitative, as if you are not equal partners and your primary value to her is how much you ease her bank account. This seems like stuff you would talk about before getting married. I don't get the, I pay for this, you pay for that, stuff. Married people typically have a joint checking account. Both contribute to, or often just have their salary deposited automatically, and bills get paid from that. An exception is that each might have their own slush fund to spend as they like. Financial disconnects like you are having rank in the top 5 things people see marriage counselors for, which I recommend you seriously consider. I would ask her to pay for 100% of all the bills, because how will you otherwise know if she really loves you? Update. I, 29. Don't like the way my wife, 26, dresses around my brother, 22. I don't know if this is worth updating or if anyone really cares, but I thought I will anyway. My original post seemed to trigger a lot of people. I've also received some good advice both in private and comments. I've had a chat with my wife about her clothing choices, or rather lack of clothing. She told me that yes, she is wearing nothing because she's comfortable that way, that's part of it. But she admitted she enjoyed the attention, looks she was getting from my brother. I guess it's a form of exhibitionism? I don't really know. We agreed that we'll let my brother stay with us till he has enough saved to move out, but I will ask him to be a better guest. And I told her that even though I don't really like the fact she's showing off to my brother, I'm willing to accept it as long as she doesn't cross the line into affair or something of that nature, which she assured me she never would. I'm not particularly happy about it, but like many people said, it's also her house and she has every right to do it. I've also asked my brother if seeing my wife that way makes him uncomfortable, and he told me he didn't mind. So again, thanks to everyone that gave advice, it was really helpful. Nope. I love my wife and I love my brother. But I am telling you, if I ever said, "Babe, cover up, he can see your bits," and she says, "No, it's cool, I'm comfortable and I like it when he sees me," and I look at my brother and say, "Dude, tell her it's not cool," and he says, "Nah bro, I don't mind," well, I'd be single living alone with one less sibling. It's her house too, but there's also something called respecting your spouse's feelings and not turning on their brother. I hope he puts a condom on. It's one thing to be naked and comfortable in your own house. It's another to do these things to specifically garner attention from others, which is admittedly why your wife is doing it. This is no longer a debate of whether your wife's inappropriate behavior was accidental. She said she's doing it on purpose. Does she like getting attention from other guys when you're not around? And of course your brother doesn't mind. He's living the dream of having a half-naked woman walk around the house, while her husband is okay with that. Good for you, I guess. Seriously, what the fuck, man? Face with rolling eyes, your wife likes the attention from your brother. And you're okay with it. Of course your brother doesn't mind. She has her tits out for him to look at. Your next update is going to be your wife fucked your brother, good luck. Big red flag you are missing here. She admitted she was enjoying the attention and looks from my brother, i.e. staring at her cold ass and titties in close proximity. Next thing she will enjoy is his dick. Have fun with divorce. Her behavior is the kind that leads to cheating. Cheating is a series of decisions and she is making very big steps with her behavior and how she dresses. She's in effect sending out signals that she wants male attention while keeping you on the hook. Not cheating means you don't put yourself in situations where cheating might occur. That is not your wife, she is willfully walking into such situations. It is just a matter of time when she steps out on you. You should not be so cool about this behavior. My wife doesn't know we're secretly rich. I posted this in another sub and realized I could use some advice. A little background. Throughout middle and high school, I mowed yards. By the time I was 16, I had amassed a decent amount of customers. I decided to forego a formal education and continue on in landscaping. Upon graduating, I started my LLC the next day. By the time I was 20 years old, my company had grown to 6 crews of 2 guys each working. I would work 14 16-hour days during the growing season, then help my father out during the dormant season. I was doing quite well financially, pulling in around $300,000 per year. My family has been in the oil industry long before I came around and an opportunity came to invest in it. So at 21, I bought a large portion of oil production on one of my father's exploration ventures. It paid out quite well, shockingly well. I then took that money and continued injecting it in other exploration ventures. I met my wife during my heavy investing stage of life, and by the time we got married, I had a really large nest egg saved up. I was always open about how much money I made after we married, but I just wasn't comfortable, not sure comfortable is the right word, telling her how much money I had saved. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I didn't want it to change her. She comes from a fairly well-off family. So I don't know why I think this way. We're both pretty frugal people considering we have no debt and pay cash for things including large purchases. I handle all our finances, including bills, investments, bank statements, etc. My wife has solely been a som by her choice, and a damn fine one at that. She is the most gentle, kind, and beautiful person I've ever met by far. She's incredibly forgiving, but I don't want to take advantage of her wonderful attributes. It's just weird knowing we have a lot of money and not sharing that information with the person I've shared everything with the last 10 years. I make plenty to keep my wife at home, but she wants to start contributing because our kids are all in school. I don't know how to tell her she doesn't have to work. I don't even have to work anymore. I know I could lie and just say, hey babe, you know we've done really well in our investments the last few years and we have $XXXXXX. But I just can't lie, I won't lie. It just seems like a big problem when it's actually something to be joyful about, I guess. So my question is this. What do I do to honor her as my wife in truth and honesty? Just flat out show her our accounts? Too long did not read. My wife doesn't know she's a millionaire. In fact, no one knows but me. I don't know how to tell her. Note. I'm really not sure why I didn't actually tell her our financial situation early on in our marriage. There has never been a time I didn't trust her. I guess I didn't see it as important at the time. Recently, my grandfather passed away, leaving my grandmother his estate. It made me start thinking deeply about what she would think had I died, and she found out through my will that I had so much set back and didn't tell her. My mind immediately snowballed to her thinking, what if she thinks I was hiding something else, like infidelity? I hope you are my husband. Tears of joy. Honestly, if telling your wife you omitted how much money you have saved is your problem here and you've actually have a healthy savings, then I would say this is the best worst news you can tell her. Do not lie and try to say how you got the money while together. I would suggest being honest. Explain everything you said in the first paragraph, breaking down how you got to where you are. Explain to her that although you've explained how much you make, the conversation of savings never really came up, and you at the time felt more comfortable not addressing it just yet. This is one of those things where she might be mad, but it's really not the worst thing out there, and you two will likely get over it. You come from old oil money and you think your wife doesn't know that you're loaded? She knows that you're so loaded that she's never bothered to ask. She probably wants to work because she's fucking bored. That seems like a big thing to hide from your wife. I would be pissed. You need to be honest. She's possibly not voicing things she wants or needs due to the money. What if she is wanting to get a job because she thinking about your kid's college and saying, "I can't lie and won't lie," is bullshit because you are lying and have been. Maybe you could reconsider some of your investments and ask her advice? What I'm envisioning is you sitting down with your portfolio and reviewing it with her. I wouldn't tell her what it was worth outright, especially as any sort of confession, as you've nothing to confess. I'd just let her do the math in her own. Maybe ask her if there is anything she'd like to invest in. Maybe she has a hobby or passion some investment funds could be directed into. You could even talk about the option of tax-deductible donations to charities that she might be passionate about. Edit. I wouldn't say that my suggestion is a ruse, as much as it is a way to open up the dialogue about the finances with her. You need to tell your wife, as you are a team and this is her money too. She has a right to know. It honestly sounds like you have a great relationship, so there's nothing to really worry about. You should not decide for your wife. This is controlling behavior hidden under the "you don't have to work" statement. She has potentials too, she needs to connect with other people, basically live her life. How about you stay home and she goes out to work? Since you don't have to work. Talk to her. It's not uncommon to save, invest and act as though that money doesn't exist. Not sharing that financial news by now seems like a case of, I can say something now, it's been too long, and so a decade goes by you. Your wife wanting to work probably has little to do with the income but more about purpose and contributing. Keep being industrious, you set a fine example for others.